Ladies and gentlemen, some snacks. A lot of you came straight from work, you know that. So they prepared some snacks for you. You can go down and kind of grab them because we're gonna start in just a minute. So if you want to do that, you can do it.
How you doing? They don't move, they hook up.
Oh, Lord.
Don't jump across.
If you make yourself at home, this is your government center. For those of you, this is your first time, we welcome you. And Judge Jones is here. We had planned on being on that side, Judge, but my staff tells me you were still having court, people were everywhere. So, thank you. But we may still be in the overflow. We appreciate it. Being here tonight, and a lot of times we just want to introduce you to the people who really make all of this work. I'll start with my staff. Between putting out various mailers and all, they've assembled this town hall. We started out talking about it. We're going to be talking about elections, but I wanted you to kind of know what District 3 is, what all it encompasses, and what we're doing tonight. I saw the Honorable Felicia Petrie. She is our district court, and you might not even begin to understand how challenging that district court's office is in terms of all of the felony courts and running day operations. And so I just really appreciate you. We got that report today. Talking about 24,000 down to 16,000. I see you brought your chief lady as well, Ms. Monique. She and I serve on the bail bond board together, and so thank you for being here, Ms. Petrie. I saw the Honorable Pauline Madrano, who is our county treasurer, and Mr. Hyder will probably talk about it in just a minute, but I understand for all of my election judges and clerks who are here tonight, they have got the matter of compensation resolved. That is a done deal. That you signed up when you were doing it. Not gonna have any of those issues. But I want to thank my staff for continuing to bury dog that and to make sure, because like I said, you're important to making all of this work. Judge Nicole Taylor. County Judge. She is I guess I'm going to call you the administrative judge, but she is the one now kind of driving what's going on in those civil courts. You know, Dallas County for doing this, and I'll talk about it in a minute with our courts and what had happened with management of the courts. You know, when y'all elect judges, when you elect elected officials, you pretty much do what you want. Some take it extremely serious, and some kind of have to be managed. And Judge Taylor has taken on that, so I appreciate that. And she came to me, she said, I need to extend this. She took that handoff. I recognize what handoff she took, and so she's taking it to another level. So I want to thank her. I saw Sheriff Marion Brown. Can't say enough about Sheriff Brown. I told Sheriff Brown the other day, and people don't realize, and I'm saying now, this is why everyone's getting set up, 3,100 counties in the United States. That means we got at least 3,100 sheriffs in the United States. Dallas County is the 9th largest county in the United States, second largest in this state, 254 counties. Out of 3,100 sheriffs, 14 of them are African American. 14. Wow. 2 women. They're doing a piece, and I appreciate Sheriff. Let me just tell you, it's no small feat, but all she's got to manage with everything now from freeway management. As you see, she's got a new, on this campus, a new academy, that is just south of here. They had been down at the end of Langdon Road, but they said Nelson Hall wasn't doing it right, so they needed to move. And so we built them a new academy over here, and so and well deserved. And so I just want to say thank you, Sheriff, because when you look at the top 4 counties in this state, in terms of what we call managing custody, those are people who are incarcerated. You're the manager with a budget. Her budget now is over $200 million. But you, the taxpayers of Dallas County, you're paying $16 million every month for the jail. 16 million. That does not count Parkland. And Mr. All's on that board. Parkland is spending $55 million a year to manage that custody. And so I want you to understand how important it is. But what she has managed to do in those 4 counties, we're the only county who is not exporting our housing custody. Harris County, Houston, sending them to Mississippi, Louisiana, in addition to their budget, an extra $50 million. Tarrant County, an extra $20 million. We're the only of the 4 counties, El Paso, Barron County, we're the only county not having to export custody. And like I said, that may not mean a lot to you. It means a lot in terms of families being able to do it, in terms of judges being able to manage, and in terms of the bottom line. So I want to thank Sheriff Brown and her team for continuing to do that. Glen Heights is in the house. Mayor Brown from Glen Heights. One of our cities, and I'll talk a little bit about it here in just a minute and what all is going on in Glen Heights as we're watching them grow and transition. Is it 9 or 11 square miles? I got some. 7. Okay, see, I got 16. There are 31 cities in Dallas County. I got 16 of them. So I'm trying to keep up with it. The Constitution says you shall have, divide the county into 4 quadrants as near equal in population. Says nothing about area. So I got 70% of Dallas County, 16 cities. I'll talk about that. Vincent Hall is on the board of Parkland System, so he's I saw Guy Brown with Parkland. He's in the house, and as we talk about continuing to develop, hey guys back there, glad to see you. The Judge Katina Whitfield in Mesquite, she's here, along with Thomas Jones. She's not out of territory. It's one of our cities, and and on November the 15th, we will dedicate the first new courthouse since 1961 in Mesquite, and they will have a new building similar to this one, and we're looking forward to being able to make that transition. And of course, Carolyn King Arnold. We share a district, and we're glad to see her. We work cooperatively on a number of issues with what I'm trying to see as eyes on these kids. But I've got a number of, like I said, election judges and clerks here tonight, and and we've got our new elections administrator. That's where we're really wanting to start tonight. It's been a lot of good staff. Just give me a second to kind of run through this, to kind of tell you where we are. I can't say enough about Devin Gwynn and Aqua Green Global. Devin Holt, raise your hand. He is the one that maintenance his facility. He maintenances a number of our facilities in Dallas County. He got it looking great, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you. It looks so good. So this whole American Rescue Plan, and you've heard a lot about it, how much money, all these political subdivisions, and I'm going to say it, I say it in court all the time. I'm going to thank the Biden administration. We talk about the recovery in this country. Better than any place else in the world, we saw the economy recover. And primarily because we got not only the Infrastructure Act, the American Rescue Plan, the Inland Port Act, I go through it ad infinitum. But this is money that Dallas County received as a result of the Biden administration, at $511 million. And that was to service all of our 31 cities. And I know they said I'm hung up on that 31 city. It's really 32. There's a little place in the southeast portion of District 3 called Combine. And part of it, 10 folks in Dallas, and the other 5 are in Kaufman County. I don't spend a lot of time down there. I'll leave that up to Vince and them all. But I've got cities that are split like that. I start, at the Tarrant County line. I follow the Ellis County line all the way to Kaufman County. Then I take Kaufman County and I go north. 16 cities. Glen Heights in Ellis County and in Dallas County. You heard me just say 7 square miles. And I talked about the sheriff earlier and what's going on with that jail. But one of the challenges she has, and I have all of the unincorporated areas. That's 68 square miles, ladies and gentlemen, that no city wants to be bothered with. Everybody talks about Sand Branch with all 60 people. There is 10,900 people who live in the unincorporated area. Not 38, not 40. 10,900 people live in that 68 square miles. Have no water, and the only tanks they have in terms of sewer is basically septic. The challenge is, and I'm going to go back to the sheriff, there are places like Bear Creek, there are places like Fireside, and right now I'm going to talk about those 127 new permits. D.R. Hart has gone into Fireside and is talking about building 500 new homes. We got 127 permits pending. And if we're not careful in this 68 square mile, we'll leave work on Friday. And if we're not careful, on Monday morning, we'll show up and there'll be 4 or 5 new houses out there. You gotta get a permit. And so my guys and the sheriff's department is trying to just ride herd on that so we can kind of manage it and control it. Like I said, man, it's been a long time. $511 million. We did it by census population, whatever the last census was, and that's the way we appropriated money into these cities. And so when we talk about ARP, that's where I'm just going on. COVID showed us one thing. We talk about a food desert, we're a medical desert, we're a broadband desert, you name a desert, we got it. But one of the things the commissioners did with that ARP money, that $511 million, we took American Rescue Plan and we appropriated $28 million. Not just appropriated, we have begun to deal with this whole issue of broadband. And that's going to help our cities. And Councilwoman, we're looking forward for the city of Dallas to finally, as my mama said, come to themselves. My other cities, they've been doing it. I know you've got a lot of other things in the churn. But what this done is we're putting together a network of broadband that most of the cities cannot afford the infrastructure. But it helps Dallas County when we talk about this whole issue of broadband and what to do. So what we're going to do by 2026 is be able, we're targeting areas. These are our zip codes, Councilwoman, that we're targeting, but we're starting downtown. We're building and improving 600 miles of fiber. That is a real undertaking, and I want to thank my colleagues for this appropriation, because it was a give and take there for a while. But a lot of this, we're going to be able to give you access to this information. The next one is a Dallas County ARP Act. And Mr. Hyde, do you need to go, and if so, and you got, okay, you okay? Okay, gotcha. The next is the Dallas County ARP Act program, the Emergency Housing Assistance Program. It's hard, we've $55 million. Now what that basically means is there are a lot of landlords and all who've had cases that we've had to underwrite, and to the tune of $55 million. We provided this emergency mortgage, rental assistance, and when you look at even eviction and foreclosures. And so we've done probably close the last 3 to 15 months, over 9,000 clients between May 2021 to September 2024. In addition to that $55 million on emergency housing, we've also dealt with what we call emergency business assistance program, that $5 million. Now we did grants, PPE, COVID, pandemic grant, $5 million. I want to tell you, when you do the math, a lot of that was in 7 sectors. These were businesses that were having a difficult time, because when COVID shut it down, a lot of people were going under. We took $5 million and we did about 15,000 grant to reimburse these businesses. The Emergency Nonprofit Assistance Program, another $5 million. And so what we did is we took emergency assistance up to $49,000 to nonprofits that experienced revenue loss. That whole real-time rapid rehousing, we spent another $25 million. That was close to about, we rehoused over about 10,500 people, and that were homeless due to what's been going on. And I know people say, well, John, y'all need to try to get this homeless thing under control. Let me just tell you, that is a real challenge, and we understand that, and we're working with our cities to try to manage that. We took some other dollars for Austin Street Center, which is basically downtown, to do rehousing, rapid rehousing. We did $1 million there. Bonton Farms, which is in South Dallas, we did another $2 million, and we provided another up to 200 residents, what we call sober living, wage-aligned housing community. Catholic Charities of Dallas did another $2 million. They said, well, why are you dealing with them? Well, primarily we're trying to prevent. Judge Jones and I just talked about it. They did, last year he did 10,000 evictions in one quarter. I say Judge Nash, I say Judge Jones. And so when you look at that, we're trying to manage that with Catholic Charities and some other nonprofits under that whole rehousing. Children's Protective Services, community partners, these are funds for children that are in crisis, which focuses on that wraparound services on children that were neglected and abused. Dallas had one of the largest populations of abused children in the state. We had more death with children being abused than any place in the state. And so that's one of our partners that we help to fund. Family Gateway, $1.6 million. And more shelter, Girls Incorporated of Metropolitan Dallas, we did another $2 million. And like I said, all of this, and I guess I should ask you if this is available for them to grab and take with you. I see some of you trying to to capture this, and that may be a way that we may just get it to you. Helping restore ability, that's providing a home, caregiving services to assist low-income children and adults with long-term disabilities. And then, of course, Homeward Bound, where we built a new center over on University in our district here. And people say, well, why do you do it in our community? Well, if you look at the residents, it's there. And we manage it. We moved into a covenant with the community. And if people don't avail themselves of the services, we make sure they don't hang around the community. We have what is called transport, and we transport them elsewhere and not in the community, so that the community doesn't have to worry about that them being just a gathering place. So Homeward Bound has been a good partner. So you call them on the weekend, you call them. Drug, alcohol is impacting our community a lot more than you could ever imagine. This District 3 based ARP Act 2 nonprofit partnership, regional black contractors, $2 million. We funded what is called a second chance workforce development program to provide training to about 240 individuals. Basically went into 52nd Street, on a housing unit. And for those individuals who we are now calling returning citizens, they're coming back to the community. You can't ignore it. It's kind of like that homeless thing. They're coming back. So what we've done is we forged a relationship with RBCA. They have forged a relationship with Dallas College. And so they are training those individuals as they return from custody, from Texas, the largest prison system in the free world, 135,000 individuals. So they're returning, and Dallas is the second largest deposit. So what are we doing when they return? And so we've got them in programs, and the number one challenge for them is to be able to find housing. Because once they got that, that mark, nobody wants to rent it. So they're trying to get a restart. We now have 71 houses. We have a transition plan with them, whereby they come in, they must get training, we put them on jobs, and then they basically are able to transition out. And I want to thank those few nonprofits that are helping us house those individuals. We cannot use this money to buy bed linen, beds, and a lot of people are coming back just sleeping on the floor. They're just glad to have housing. And so we've engaged a number of nonprofits who've come in, helped us to furnish the properties, and we want to thank them for that. We've done shared housing, $1.9 million for the people we call shelter in place who are facing homeless, and then the Visiting Nurses Association of Texas, who provide these meals to about 300 people that are homebound. I know, again, most of us probably can move around. We're not worried. There are a lot of people in our community who are homebound, not just COVID, homebound. And so we gave the Visiting Nurse Association, who serves these meals, about $1.9 million. Now to the opioid settlement. Everybody's wondering, what are y'all doing with all of that money? Well, first of all, that money is trickling in. We've now gone to the street with an RFP for people to provide services. Dallas County was really one of the initiators of this whole opioid settlement. We're going to pick up about $20-something million. Parkland has a plan that is already in place. And those individuals who are coming out or who are in the jail, they are now basically mapping what we call an exit strategy. We don't just turn people loose who, in fact, have serviced their time. Only individuals, and this is part of my challenge with the state of Texas. There are 400 individuals. The sheriff, I just told you, she's authorized for 7,100 people. Last night, midnight count, about 6,700 people. I just told you, she's having the max, 6,700 people. The challenge with that, ladies and gentlemen, is that you can't, a bed is not a bed, is not a bed. There's something called a classification system. And in that classification system, you cannot mix population. You can't mix maximum with minimum. And even to further complicate the deal is that a female cannot be in sight nor sound of a male. 941 females. Custody was designed, unfortunately, for males. So now she's having to manage those individuals. I just told you, you do the math. She's authorized for 7,100, 67. And that says nothing about what we call PREA. Those are young folks who have allegedly committed offenses that are in the adult system. You cannot put them with the rest of the population. It's called PREA. It's a federal act. It's the Prison Rape Elimination Act. So we have to separate them. So that jail is running 24/7. She's serving 24,000 meals, not bologna and cheese sandwiches. They have to be calorically balanced. She gets audited for that. And I don't think people understand. They have to be calorically balanced. We come in, the Texas Commission on Jail Standards comes in, looks at the menu. She's challenged. And that's just in the adult system. 24,000 meals every day. That's not counting the people who are in the hospital. Parkland takes care of the infirmary. But it's a lot of people in there have renal failure. You know, they're diabetic. That's another population. That's a subset. That is a medium-sized hospital inside the Dallas County Jail. Trustee, that you? Dr. O'Reilly, thank you. And I talked about it. Dr. Keisha O'Reilly is our newest member of the Dallas College Board. And believe me, she's hit the ground. She's hit the ground running. I talked about RBCA a few minutes ago. They helped us frame that training for those returning citizens. But this whole thing of opioid settlement, here it is, and you get the awards, and I'm not going to insult you, but this Parkland Medicaid Assisted Treatment Program, what we call MAT, that's where they hand them off in the jail, and then they hand them off to the community. And so those services, Parkland's got a $3 billion budget. That's right, guy? I got $3 billion. But like I said, they're spending about $55 million in the jail. So we're doing everything we can to leverage that. This is, and as I said, this speaks for itself. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that. I want to talk to you about District 3 families. And this is the family comparison with District 3 compared to the rest of the county. You know, married with children, of 167,000 families. Married with children got about 42,000. District 3, percentage of the families are a quarter of them, 25%. And of the 180,000, and of course, single with children is 33,000. Single female with children, about 26,000. So when you look at all of this data, and like I said, I know y'all probably don't want to churn all of this tonight. Just want you to know we do comparisons so we know how to direct These are our age groups, District 3 age groups, under 5. These are the number of individuals, and that's where we keep watching this whole housing deal. A number of folks with children under a certain age who may be getting possibly evicted. These are working age individuals, these are the 65 plus, but our working age, 18 to 64, this is our population. The incomes, and my staff just went all out. I'm gonna make sure y'all get access to all of this. I'm not gonna go through all of it, but 150,000 or more. That's just a couple of cities on those District 3 households. We'll have that 19%. And so in the category of less than 25,000, we're at 15%. And 150,000 or more, we're at 19%. And most of the range is averaging around 50,000. So we've got that, we got the graph and all of that. We got the housing units, and my staff just, okay, they went all in. I guess they said that's what you get for asking for data. I want to thank my staff. Like I said, Daphne Thane is my chief of staff. I saw, where's Daphne? Daphne Lawana Osborne is here. She's at the table. Thank you, Lawana. And Renera gets called on the weekend. You there? Okay. Thank you, Renera. And then, of course, Vincent runs the road and bridge district. This is where we are on that unincorporated area. We just talked about it. This shows where I am in relationship to everyone else. But this is my Achilles heel. This is where 11,000 people are without water and without sewer in that area. So when you keep hearing that, Zambranch got 40, 50 people, 11,000 folks out here, 10,900, and it says 576, but updated 10,900 people. We don't have water and sewer. And they will tell you when we have hearings, my staff will tell you, we've had hearings all over this area, and they'll tell you, we moved out here because we didn't want to be bothered. I know y'all looked and said, they ain't got no water, no sewer. They said, we don't want to be bothered. And we've had some hearings because the challenge for us is, and we're using a tool in our arsenal that we've never, it's called a PID. Cities use them all the time. City of Dallas uses Permanent Improvement District all the time. Counties seldom use them. We went in and did a PID because up here in my area in Fireside is where D.R. Horton said, we're going to build 500 new homes. That sounds good. City of Dallas, de-annexed it, Councilwoman. D.R. Horton went up there and did it. Problem is, they ain't got no water. And people, and they got water in terms of the house because they created what is known as a MUD district, a municipal utility district. They got water. They don't have fire service. They don't have enough water to create fire service. So since they did that, they have what is called an ISO rating of about 10. And so we said, hey, we're going to, Dr. O'Reilly, we said, we're going to help y'all out. We're going to create. So Marshall De Los Santos and his group, Fire Marshal, thank you, Marshall. I saw Chief Miser here a few minutes ago. We went out there and started having hearings. We started down here in Wilmer, went all the way up to Garland Fireside. Got up there, started having hearings, said, look, they rate you based on your access to fire service. People said, we moved out here and we didn't know that. Problem is, you got a $400,000 mortgage. And that $400,000 mortgage, they're going to make you do some fire insurance. That ISO 10 is the top. That's as high as you can get. And if you don't have access to fire service, that's it. So now these people were crowded, so we were trying to assist them. We went and had a hearing, a simple, put people on notice. That's when folks started showing up. Folks down here, up there, they say, hey, too bad, so sad. That's y'all problem. We're not, and so we're having a real difficult time trying to create a PID to assist them in the fire service. Marshall de los Santos, we want to build, hey Judge, come on in. We wanted to go in there and build fire station. Now we have a fire station in Dallas County. Again, I know y'all all got access to fire service. You live in a city. But in a little area off of Beltline Road, we have a volunteer fire service. We have to have it. We were trying to build a fire service in Wilmer and in Fireside. So far, no success. But I just want you to understand when you hear some of this stuff, what's really going on. Permitting in the unincorporated area, you heard me talk a little bit about that. Building permits earlier. What's going on with floodplain, we'll talk a little bit about that. And so I just want you to understand something about, this is the area of the city where the county where we're challenged. 955 square miles, I just told you. Second largest county in the state, 9th largest county in the United States. A lot of it is still unincorporated, at least 68 square miles. The other cities have picked up the rest of it. This is permitting, and a lot of this building permitting is those homes. Let's go over to this real quickly. Okay, so you put in the economic development projects? Okay. So again, they pretty much, again, speak for themselves. Daphne, is this available for them? Because like I said, I mean, they can continue to do this all night if they want to. Okay. We want to make sure that y'all have access to getting this, taking it, putting it in your computer if you want to study a little bit more about Dallas County. It ain't nothing that's, they'll keep you up at night. But it's what we have to deal with. 2024, these are the requests we received for projects in Dallas County Economic Development. See what it says? 12 of the 14 are in District 3. And so the majority of this money that's coming in is coming into District 3. Next. So did you go get the Hutchins? Oh, so y'all didn't put the Hutchins piece up there? Okay. And so let me just say this, and I really, like I said, we pulled this kind of, I mean, just kind of, so you get an overview. Trustee Whitfield, thank you. Lancaster, glad to have you. Judge Ingrid Warren, welcome. Oh, there you go, Judge. Thank you. Probate judges have, the 3 probate judges have the largest probate courts pretty much almost in the Southwest, right? Definitely in Texas. They have a lot going on. And so I really did this for elections to make sure that you understand. I understood today we now have the highest election registrations that we've had in the history.
That's great.
I understand Mayor Steve Mason. Oh, so that is, so y'all finally got it. Okay. Mayor Steve Mason has joined us. Hey, Mayor, thank you. Cedar Hill. Good partners. Economic development. We just helped shepherd a new dealership that's coming to you real soon, one that's in the southern sector, and we appreciate that. Because see, what you don't understand in these cities want those sales taxes. Those dealerships don't create those high-end sales taxes. The most regenerative sales taxes in the country is what they want. They want to see those cycles come over. And it was a real challenge. But thank you, Mayor. A new Chrysler Jeep dealership going into the southern sector. So we appreciate you, Cedar Hill. This whole deal here with Hutchins, go to the next one. Okay. Oh, again, the overview, this is gonna talk a little bit about the inland port, the District 3 major capital improvement projects. Next, just churning. And of course, this is the vision that we're working on. We're even talking about relocating some cities. I know Mayor Brown and I, Sonia Brown and I, are working on some things. She talked about 7 square miles. Again, that doesn't mean much to you. I've got cities that are 11 square miles. But the issue is challenges for access to food. There's a challenge. I mean, Kroger, whatever, they're not trying to locate in Glen Heights. But we got new subdivisions going into Glen Heights. We've got a lot of new subdivisions going in out there. People are moving. And so what do we do about food? And so she has gone to Atlanta and picked up an initiative that we're now trying to work for what is called a mobile food store. And so we're trying to work through. This is the Dallas County here, populating city. This is we're 2.7, but like I said, 900 square mile, nice second. Next, these are all the cities. Next, 17 cities. And so you're going to hear a lot about, this whole inland port thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the largest industrial area growth in the United States. It's happening in the southern sector. And so what they're beginning to do is come into this area. The problem is it's a lot of logistics, and we're trying to get manufacturing. Talked a few minutes ago, just a few years ago, there were cities out here that didn't have water. Now again, we talked about the unincorporated, but it took us over 2 years to get the city of Lancaster to sell 3 million gallons of water to Wilmer. And what y'all, the more you delve into this, what you're gonna find out is water is king and queen. If you ain't got no water, ain't none of the rest of the stuff. I just told you about that fire service, but they water. And in this area, you either do Trinity River Authority or you do DWU. And Dallas Water Utility owns Lake Ray Hubbard. I know y'all out there fishing and riding them boats. That is a water source. And they control it. Dallas does. So when we did Wilmer, again, it took money. When I built Pleasant Run, $38 million. Had to build a 2 million gallon underground water tank. And then a 500 gallon above ground for Wilmer. But guess what? Now, Trina Solar, the largest solar manufacturing in the world, has now gone to Wilmer. 1,500 jobs. They're on Sunrise Road. And as a result, the rest of my cities are going to benefit. When Trina went into Wilmer and built in and around that inland port right down the street from Walmart, Canadian Solar went into Mesquite, the other part of my district. 1,500 jobs. Manufacturing. And we want manufacturing versus logistics because of the multiplying effect. It makes all the difference in the world. Run through this real quick. I'm still trying to get to. These are grants that we got. I'm just not going to overwhelm them with all this data. But tonight, this is the Inland Port Management Association. I do want to thank, even though Councilwoman, I stay upset with it. Every once in a while, a blind hog will find an acre. We created the Dallas County Inland Port Management Association because all of these companies moved in and people still have a problem getting to work. I know for those of you who have transportation, y'all don't worry about that. 40% of my district is transportation deprived. 40%. You have all these jobs, people couldn't get to it. So we created the Dallas County Inland Port Management Association, and Councilman Tanell Atkins and I, we leveraged it, and then the North Central Texas Council government came along, and so as a result, we created the Dallas County Inland Port Management Association. One more thing is the LGC, and I want to thank my cities that have helped us formulate a local government corporation. As a result of that local government corporation, which the Secretary of State says takes at least a minimum of 4 plus the county to create, we have now formed and planned on folding the Dallas County Inland Management Association under the LGC. And what that basically means is that we can now go after, as a collective, $695 million that the Biden administration has put into the Inland Port Act. 10 largest cities in this country, 2 don't have access to waterways. Dallas is number 4, Atlanta is number 8. So now, as a collective, we can go after those dollars, and that's what we're planning on doing. I'm not getting all these programs, just flip it through. These are connectivity. This is our best Southwest again, Mayor. Thank you to all of my mayors for being in DeSoto. These are projects that we have now that are underway in DeSoto, coming out of Dallas, Duncanville, this whole area. We'll get you that. They have now upgraded this project. Let's just not worry about with all of this, because they may have some questions. Mr. Hyder, where are you? Okay, and so we're going to talk about, we got more people registered in this election than ever in the history of Dallas County. And while we're going to talk about that, keep in mind, I just told you, we got 2.7 million people. We got 1.8 million people in Dallas County that are 18 years of age and older. Prior to this last election, to this election, we had 1.4 million registered to vote. I think as of this morning, I asked them about the numbers, I think we're up to about 1.6 million. Now, that all sounds good, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't vote. And let me just tell you, 2008 was the largest voter turnout that we've ever seen in Dallas County. And that was the Obama election. And even then, we barely touched 900,000. So the difference between the 900,000 and the 1.4 million back then that was registered to vote, we had 500,000 folks who didn't even bother. So maybe our work is still very much cut out for. Mr. Hyde is going to just at least tell us how much money. He's got his. Come on. Okay, whoever wants to. All y'all ready. We're going to answer the question.
Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? So we're going to make this a two-part presentation. Jayla's got some great material she's going to walk you through. She's done a lot of effort. She's put a lot of good information in there. She's going to skip some slides. There's a lot of information there that most of your judges and registrations over, things like that. And then once she's covered that material, then I'll come back and we'll go into some of the final questions about, that you may have specific questions about things related to the process. Does that make sense? So I will leave you with our outreach coordinator, Jayla.
Hello. Hi, good evening. I see a lot of familiar faces, so it puts me at ease a little bit. My name is Jayla Dave. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for Dallas County Elections. And like Hyder was saying, I know a lot of you are vote center judges and clerks. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm going through these slides here. I know a lot of it is probably repetitive. We'll kind of breeze through it, and then I'll open up the questions to Hyder in just a moment here. So typically I start off with something interactive, but typically what we cover is what an elections department actually does. So you're a part of our department, you judges and clerks. You actually help us oversee the election operations by being in the vote centers and making sure that everyone who's eligible to vote and wants to vote is able to do so at our vote centers. In our elections department, of course, we manage voter registration, and we do this all in accordance with the Texas Election Code. Okay, so everyone's pretty familiar with how we kind of conduct everything in the elections department as clerks and judges. Now, we do this in attempts to remain straight to our mission, which is FAST. We use the acronym FAST. So fairness, accuracy, security, and transparency. We try to be transparent in everything that we do. We have a new kind of reformed communications team, so we're doing a lot more with media, sharing a lot more behind the scenes things. So if you're not following us on social medias, definitely do that. But we're just trying to make sure that our elections are secure and transparent. And then we do it with everyone, with all these different inner departments, our administration, our operations, and our technology departments. But I'm just going to kind of hound in on these three that are probably most familiar to us that we don't even realize. So training. How many of my judges have already been to training? Everyone's been to training? Yes, okay. So our training department, they're a very big department. They're responsible for training election judges and clerks to make sure that when you're out in the field at the vote centers, you're able to assist voters. Any scenario, any unique scenarios, just your standard scenarios, they're there to assist you, to make sure that you're prepared for those. Our GIS services, they're there to actually help with determining the vote centers. They use the data, the statistics to support the vote centers that are throughout Dallas County elections. We work with the commissioner's office to make sure that, we have the appropriate vote centers where they should be. And then our HR and records, that's with our fiscal team as well. They make sure that you guys are paid. Okay, I'll let Heidi talk about that. Listen, I'm just doing the presentation. Let's see. I think it skipped a few. Hold on now. It took me to the end. It's okay. What I'll talk about next is, let's see, voting in person. So what are you guys anticipating with this upcoming November election? I know that there's a lot of anticipation behind the November election, what to expect, what not to expect. What I really want to talk about today is the list of acceptable forms of IDs, because I know there's sometimes a little confusion between what you could actually provide at the vote center and what you cannot. So our list of acceptable forms of ID, like list A, that's going to be your driver's license, passport, U.S. citizen certificate, no wait, sorry. Passport.
Gun license.
Yes. Personal identification card, your election ID, and then what else am I missing?
Government ID.
Gun license.
Government ID.
Yes, that's all there. Sorry, I'm a little off because of my presentation. Where are we? But yes, you named them all. Okay, so what's important about the personal ID or your ID, your driver's license, is that it can be expired for up to 4 years. So when you are presented with a license at the vote center that is expired, if that individual is between the ages of 16 to 69, they're able to present that ID and it can't be expired. I don't know if you've ever, or recently if you had to deal with the DPS, but the wait time is crazy, okay? So make sure that when you're processing voters, you keep that in mind, as well as the address. There we go, thank you. There they are. The address in the e-poll book doesn't necessarily have to match the address on their ID, okay? That is a process I know they cover very thoroughly in training, so that's something to keep in mind as well. And then when it comes to our List B documents, which I don't think are on here, our List B documents, which are the current utility bill, paycheck, this one I know, paycheck, a government check, birth certificate, voter registration certificate, then that's when they're actually able, they still could vote with those materials, but they would complete a reasonable impediment form, Does everyone know what that is? No? That's if they're not able to access a acceptable form of ID from list A. They could vote using any of those alternative IDs, and then they're just basically signing that they weren't able to receive or access the acceptable form of ID from list A, so like a driver's license or a passport. Now, I know that the voter registration deadline has passed, it was October 7th, but has everyone in here checked their voter registration?
Yes.
To make sure you're active? No?
Yes.
No? Okay. Well, there's a QR code here. We have a voter registration or voter lookup on our website. It's going to tell you if you're active or if you're in suspense. Okay? You may have not heard this term suspense, but you probably heard about it in the news in terms of a voter purge. Have you guys heard that?
Yes.
And when they're being, people or registered voters are being removed from the voter roll? Okay, so here at Dallas County, we do a really good job at keeping our voter rolls accurate and up to date. So we didn't encounter that, but what happens is if you're in the suspense status of your voter registration for 2 federal elections, then you're going to be removed from the voter roll. Okay, so suspense is anytime that we send out a voter registration certificate, they're sent out every even numbered year or during even numbered years. If that comes back to us in the mail, that alerts us to, we may not have the accurate address on file for you. So that's when you'll receive, or that's when you'll be placed on the suspense list if we don't receive a response. We do give you some time to give us a response and update your address, but if we don't receive it, then you're placed on the suspense list. And then if you are on the jury service list, sometimes they indicate like, hey, something's going on with this individual's address. And then that's when you can be placed on the suspense list. So if you're not going to vote, not only in presidential elections, but in local elections, those 2 consecutive federal election periods, then you will be removed from the voter registration roll. So I don't think that's any of you guys in here. No? Okay. So there's your methods of voting. We have voting by mail, then we have voting in person. I know everyone here is probably leaning towards voting in person just as judges and clerks. But we do want to talk about voting by mail really quickly, just to breeze through it. So to be eligible to vote by mail, you have to be 65 or older on election day, have a disability, expecting to give birth within 3 weeks before or after election day, or you're expected to be absent from the county during early voting and election day, or you're confined in jail, okay? So those are the eligibility requirements. You have to meet any one of these requirements to vote by mail, to be eligible to vote by mail. And the application for November is due October 25th. Okay. Now, something to take into account here, college students, anyone have college students in your family? Okay, if they're out of the county right now, but they're still registered in Dallas County and they reside in Dallas County, that's where they're claiming their residence, then they're eligible to vote by mail. So don't count them out for this November. They need to get in their application by October 25th.
I have a question in regards to that.
Sure.
If they're in college and away, do they vote by mail using their current address here, or do they use the address where they're located
So their
to get their ballot?
So their mailing address will be the address where they're located. So we could send the ballot to their physical address,
Okay.
but then their residence address would be their address here
Okay.
to certify that they're a Dallas County resident.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Good question. Okay. Now I won't go through this. We have ballot by mail applications in the back. So if you do need assistance or if you do need to receive one, we have them available for you today. I'm a little off here. I think my whole slideshow is messed up. But on our website, if you are voting by mail or if you know someone who's voting by mail, we have a tool on our website where you could actually track your ballot. So if you're not kind of like, where's my ballot? Is my vote being casted? Did I vote? What's going on? You actually have access to a tool on our website where you could track your ballot. Now we're going to talk about voting in person, and this is probably where I'll kind of wrap it up a little bit here. But with voting in person, of course, we're going to keep in mind no electioneering or campaigning within 100 feet of the vote center. You know that anyone who enters a vote center, they could bring in their sample ballots. They could reference that as their notes. Okay, poll watchers, I know that.
Make that clear.
I'll make it clear, okay.
You cannot bring telephonic devices. I know everybody's texting and they're showing you on how you cannot bring a telephonic device in to assist you. However, slate cards, placards are allowable. Okay, they are allowable in the polling place. Make that very clear.
Thank you. Yes, so no electronic devices, okay? Just simple ballot, placards, notes, handwritten notes, whatever you need to reference to assist you, as long as it's not an electronic device. Poll watchers, I know that will be a thing. Poll watchers, they are going to be present this November, okay? They're present, they've been present since that came through. But with poll watchers, just keep in mind, as a judge or as a clerk or even as an individual who's voting, poll watchers they shouldn't be there to intimidate you or kind of crowd around you. They're really there just to observe the conduct of the vote center. That's it. They're either designated by a political party, a candidate, or the state. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, we are having 70 early voting vote centers. Early voting begins October 1st and it lasts through November 1st. I'm sorry, October 21st. Thank you. Y'all Okay. Then we have over 440 election day vote centers. So I think we're at 453 right now, right, Hyder? Okay. Election day is November 5th. Okay, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, we do have, of course, the curbside option that is available. Hyder will talk about that in a moment. That's always going to be available at all of our vote centers. We also make sure that our voters have access to interpreters. The judges, you have access to an interpreter app that you can utilize. You can always, of course, help the voter if they need assistance. And I think other than that, that's it. Hyder. Thank you.
Let me just say, thank you. Go ahead on. Go ahead, you got a question.
I just had a quick question with regards to the suspense. What if they were to go to vote or early vote, what's the alternative if they realize at that point they're in suspense?
So they will be given the opportunity to update their address. So at that time, they will just update their address. They will do a, statement of residence form. It's on the e-poll book, and it's electronic form, just verifying and updating their address.
Yes, please.
Is there a number one strategy to persuade the people to vote early?
Tell them, repeat it. Tell them, I usually mention the question. Did y'all hear the question? No. Is there a strategy to persuade people to vote early? And the first one that comes to mind is tell them that in March we had a very bad snowstorm, almost, thunderstorm, and we had to close a third of the locations. And so those people who kept waiting until election day, May 28th, there you go. There were probably some people who said, I'm going to wait until election day, and then they ran into that and they probably couldn't make it. So I don't like to risk it. I don't know why we would wait. I mean, I always tell people, if you win a lottery ticket, are you going to wait until the 30th day possible? I'd be there on day one and catch that thing right away, right? But that's the argument. The main argument is still that. Thank you, Jayla. I know you're nervous. It's not every day your PowerPoint fails in front of the committee. I feel that you did a good job. Okay. One note I did want to make, it's 2 years expired, the ID, not 4. Yes, sir.
Hey, I've got a burning question. It's good to be in front of some folks who can answer it. Curbside assistance, are those only official designated people? Or can I, as a kind of helpful citizen, decide, hey, I'm going to hang out on election day and help people who need it, get from their cars?
Did y'all hear the question? He's asking if curbside is just official poll workers who can help with it, or if he can hang around and see if people need help. It's option 1. Only the clerks can do it, right? Curbside is only the poll worker at the location. The judge and the clerks assigned for the location can assist someone in curbside. You have to bring the machine out, you have to bring the forms, and you have to bring the ballot in, so it has to be people who are appointed or under oath or working the location. The parking spot we are is actually considered a voting booth, and so there can be no bystanders there.
I do want to thank, back to the Sheriff's Department and the Marshal Service. I do want to thank them. I know a lot of you have a lot of rancor going on at the election polling place, okay? There is a great coordinated effort. Captain Salas in the Sheriff's Department, Marshal De Los Santos, we've got a different security parameter. For those of you who are judges in there, you know, they want you to be as polite as Jayla said, Mr. Garcia said earlier. They have a right to be there. They don't have a right to intimidate you. Okay? And he will tell you I use some choice words because I know where they target. Okay, we know where they're target. But we don't have anything, you know, to worry about. And the Marshal Service along with the Sheriff's Department, they're going to be coordinating. They've broken down into perimeters. They're going to be patrolling. They're going to be there. We're going to have safe, secure election. Yes, ma'am.
Weapons are being banned. Weapons are banned. Weapons.
Oh, yeah. Weapons. Yeah, take them back to the car. You don't need them in the polling place. Yeah. You're going to be just like fair Paul. Take them back to the car. Okay? And you know, and the thing is, and I want to thank those individuals. I want to thank those individuals who are hosting, because I'm going to tell you something. Hosting election this day with all this rancor, folks be saying, nah, thanks, but no thanks. You know, we don't want it. And then some of these places we have daycares operating. So we have to kind of separate all of this out. We just want you to know there's a lot that's been going through. You just talked about 70. We're spending tens of millions of your dollars to create the program. And I'm like, Mr. Garcia, I vote on the first day. I just say, just in case God, and I know some of y'all don't think God will call me. But anyway, just in case God calls me on the second day, you can't go in there and get my vote. And as you said, I've made a challenge with some of my friends. I made a challenge with some of my friends. Have you voted yet? I'm gonna beat you to the point. My point is, you got 2 weeks, even Saturday and Sunday, to vote, and then you're gonna wait. Anyway, yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the mail-in ballots.
Okay.
Can you send those off as soon as you get them, or do you have to not have a postmark before a certain day?
So I think returning your voted ballot. So the question was the timeline, if there's a restriction on when to return the mail ballot. The answer is no, as soon as you get it. We already have hundreds of ballots that have been returned in our office. So if anybody asks you, actually, as of today, hundreds of people in Dallas County have already voted. Quote unquote. The ballot's there, they have to go through signature, but they're there. They have already submitted a ballot. If they show up to vote in person, they already are marked as you voted, you returned the ballot. Okay? So no, do not wait, put it in the mail as soon as possible. Don't count on the postmark. I keep looking at my phone because I made a few notes of things that I wanted to bring up. They're kind of different. Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to hear what you got to say, but I just want to say that I am so honored and impressed by you. I've heard your podcast on This American Life, and it's a podcast about flies and honey, and how incredibly patient you were with someone who doubted the voting process, and how you not only converted her, but I think everybody that listened to that podcast. So I'm so delighted that you are here in Dallas County, which is where I believe you belong, because I want you to know that you are appreciated, that you do great work. So I just wanted to say that publicly in front of all those people. And for everyone who hasn't heard that podcast, you should listen. We have a jewel in Dallas County with Ms. Harrison.
Thank you. Thank you. So, a couple of things that I wanted to mention, right? That are kind of special about presidential elections for those of you who are judges, or just if you want to know. There are certain types of specific ballots and circumstances that generate very unique ballots for people. One of them is called a limited ballot, okay? Bottom line for you to tell everyone in your community is, if you moved to Dallas County recently and you're still registered in Colon and Tarrant, you have to do a limited ballot, and you can only do it during early voting and in our office. You cannot do it on election day. Another reason to not wait till election day. If you happen to be in that situation, you're not gonna be able to fix it on election day. It can only be done during early voting. That's for people who have moved, and again, we're not gonna go into the confusing details, but if you know anyone, they say, I moved, I'm not sure. Number one, go to voter lookup, check their registration, and if they don't show up, then will contact us, then we'll check with Roll County and tell them to make sure they go on early voting in case it's a limited ballot. There's also something called a presidential only ballot. If you're a voter who moved from Texas, say that you moved to Oklahoma after the cutoff date, and you say, you know what, I never got a chance to register there, you can actually come back and do what's called a presidential only ballot during the election, right? Again, it's a very specific thing. It's just in case you know someone or you hear someone or in an audit, you're like, hey, what's that about a ballot that only had the presidential race? That's a presidential only ballot, right? Those things happen. Poll watchers. I wanted to talk about poll watchers. The commissioner pretty much brought it home with that. Yes, and I say this publicly, we want them there. That's actually a good thing. Okay, you want to be able to turn, my favorite phrase, and I say this to both parties, is when they say, hey, this happened, I turn and say, well, that was your judge, that was your appointee. You want people from the candidates there, you want people from the parties there who behave and who respect the rules. Because then when they walk out and they say, hey, something happened, well, you were there. How did it happen in front of you, right? So they're an important part, but they have to play by the rules, and the rules are clear. They're watchers, they're not auditors, they can't disrupt the process, they can't intimidate the voters, they can't be asking you to stop the process, right? They're not auditors, they're watchers. Their job there is to watch and make notes, and then take those notes and file complaints if they want to, okay? But they are an important part of the process, okay? Don't hesitate, those of you who are judges, to say, hey, I've got someone who's pushing the boundaries here. We'll give you some advice, we'll walk you through it, but you want to make sure that you enforce your boundaries, but we also respect the rights of those who are people who are watchers, because they're an important part of the process. Ballot tracker, I did want to highlight that too. On the voter lookup, if you know someone who voted by mail, and they're uncertain, they mailed my ballot back, I'm not sure if it got there or if it didn't, the voter lookup is now showing that something new we did this summer, the status of your mail ballot if you ask for one. So when you put in your name, your last name, and your date of birth, it says, hey, here's your file, here's where you registered at, and then it'll show a section that says your ballot by mail was issued this day, was mailed this day, was received that day, and eventually will be approved or rejected this day, right? So you can see how it's going, kind of like your Amazon order, right? Not so fancy, we don't send you the annoying text, but at least you can log in and see where it's at. So that's another tool, the state has another one, but there are ways for people to find out if their ballot has been received and basically take the stress off wondering, should I go in person, right? Curbside cards, the Commissioner's Court, and I know you led this effort the day we were there, Commissioner Price, so thank you for that. We did a $1.2 million investment in curbside cards. Curbside cards are a nightmare. Curbside voting is a nightmare in Texas, and I'll tell you why, and I said this publicly, you can quote me. The state certifies the system, but the state doesn't say, hey, here's the machine you can use, and here's how you do curbside. They say, here's the machine you can use, and good luck with curbside. So there's really no out-of-the-box solution provided by the vendor. So these cards are actually a project I started back when I was in Tarrant. They took 2 years to design, to provide feedback. They have hydraulics, so you can lift it. If you got a big pickup truck, they lift up tall, they come back down low. They've got good wheels, so you can get them over door lids and roll them. It was a long project. Eventually, when we came here and he said, we need curbside, I said, well, I know who's got it because we just did them. They're super new. They're so new that we're actually getting our first shipment of them tomorrow. So it's going to be a long weekend for us, but you're all going to have them at the public places. They have drawers. I mean, I think you're all going to like, most of you who have seen it during training. The idea was to make it easier for you to go out, to bring the machine out with the poll book and actually do 2-3 voters at a time if you have 2 or 3 cars. Yes, ma'am.
Is that going to be on the election day as well?
No, because we didn't have enough time. By the time we placed the order, there was only enough. But we are going to have as many as we can out. Now, on an early voting location, that is an election day location, we'll keep them on site.
Can we use them though?
Sorry?
Can we use them?
Yeah, of course. Anything that's there, use it. What I'm saying is that we didn't have enough time to get, by the May election, every single early voting and election day location is going to have one of these cards. But we placed the order too late. And so it wasn't even in the plan. Honestly, the budget was supposed to be for next year, but again, the commissioners made an effort and said, get them out now. We can only get 100 in time for early voting. The rest of the shipments are gonna come in later. But if you're in one of these big early voting locations that opens on election day, your cards are gonna be there. I saw a hand up there.
Quick question. I guess I forgot, a poll watcher. Is he identified at the place with a label or anything, or he's just there? Or you have one poll watcher per place, or two, or?
Did y'all hear the question? Yes. Poll watchers, are they identified? Yes. When a poll watcher arrives at the polling place, they have to identify to the election judge. Remember, you can't have bystanders at a polling place, right? So you can't have Johnny walk in and say, I'm just gonna sit here because, you know, it's a cool place. Get out. You're either voting, you're working, or you're out. It's simple, right? So when a poll watcher comes in, they have to go to the judge and say, hey, here's my certificate of appointment, here's my training certificate, I'm here to watch, and the judge's gonna give them a little sticker, one on there, so it's a watcher. Right. How many poll watchers? The code says, candidates can appoint, so, yeah, theoretically you could have hundreds. Now, at that point, we're gonna go into what's the capacity of the building, right? You can't overflow. But you can have appointed by candidate in any race, all the way up and down the ballot, and also appointed by, committees, whatever the term is, organizations for and against propositions on the ballot. So thank you, Dallas, for the 18 propositions on the ballot in a presidential year. If each one of them has a separate committee, each one of them could have one for and more against, you know, so. Now, I don't think we've seen more than 3. And honestly, I think in March we had like maybe 5 all across the county. 26. 26? Well, there you go. You had 26 ones? Love it. Great place to go vote. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a quick question before, whenever you get your presentation? At the end of the day, at 7 o'clock, you know, we all jubilant, it's over with, but you still got people in your line. How do you determine if the building's not big enough, the church fellowship hall will only hold about 12 folks? So how do you determine, you know, how to get people in? Where does the line end? Because we said I've had that with people. I was sitting in my car, now you need to be in here at 7 o'clock. But how do you determine that at 7 o'clock? How do you end it? How do you end it without confusion?
So there are different ways, right? And I know what you just said. I just want to, so I give many options here. If your building's large enough that you can bring the line, you bring it inside, probably a door inside the building, and say, all right, everybody who was in line is inside the building, and now the line's inside the building. If your building's not big enough to accommodate that, you can, if you know the last voter in line and someone you trust, you can give them something and say, hey, you're the last one. Or what I've also seen some judges do is they either go themselves or they send a clerk and say, it's 7 o'clock, I'm behind the last one. And then as people come in who try to come in late, they say, I'm sorry, but you got here after 7 p.m. And they walk the line and they're there. I actually knew a judge once who said, I am always the last one to vote because I stand last in line and I close the whole thing, casting my ballot, and I'm done. So that's another way to do it if you. Yes, sir.
For the November election, is there any legislative action as far as restrictions for the voting?
No, did you hear the question? No. If there's any legislative changes or restrictions for this November election. The laws haven't changed since last year, 23. Now, some people haven't voted since the governor's election or probably since the last presidential. I don't think the user experience, to call it somehow the average voter, is going to feel any different. You're going to walk into a polling place, you're going to go to one of these electronic poll booths. If you're there, then you're going to go get a blank ballot, put it in a machine, vote, turn it in a scanner, and leave, get your sticker. You're getting new stickers this year. We'll talk about it in a minute. And leave. So for the voter, I don't expect much of a difference. For poll workers, there are a couple of new processes that they have to follow, but that is covered in the training, right? We've done a couple of things to address some of these claims of we don't have printed tapes on early voting, or the memory drives don't have a chain of custody. That's fine, we'll break the whole machine. Like, literally, I got fed of it and said, well, we don't know where the machine is. You know what, we're going to grab the whole machine and we're going to bring it back on the end of early voting, and I don't want to hear it. So we're bringing back the whole machine at the end of early voting.
I do want to join Judge Warren in this, because I've had to wrestle with this for the last several years. When Mr. Garcia came in, he took, and for those of you who dealt with those DS200s, hello, and all that, He went to the platinum in terms of servicing that particular product. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, that's what the judges and all use at the polling places. The difference between the gold and the platinum is day and night in terms of who's responsible in servicing them to make sure that they're going to be what you need them to be. So we don't expect any challenges with that equipment this time. And the difference between gold and platinum, like I said, is the difference between day and night. Mr. Proctor from Park and House Bill, John. Thank you. And chairman of the RBCA with those returning citizens. So, any other questions from Mr. Hott? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I have a question. You mentioned the mail-in ballots would be, you could track it and determine where it is, and then it would be either rejected or what would be one of the reasons for it to be rejected? If a person
Okay.
had their ballot in.
So the question was, that I mentioned, we're tracking the status of the ballots, whether it was received and eventually whether it's accepted or rejected. And the question was, why would a mail ballot be rejected? If you don't sign your mail ballot envelope, they cannot receive it, right? There's a ballot board, right, that has to verify that signature, right? When you vote by mail, nobody's checking your ID. And Texas is an ID required state to vote. So, because you don't show your ID, the equivalent or the replacement for that on the mail ballot at home is your signature. And so, there's a ballot board made up of equal parts of Republicans and Democrats, and they literally sit in pair in the room, one and one, and they look at the signature on the envelope and the signature on the registration, and they go, yeah, that's a match. What's a match? Whatever they say is a match. It's that subjective, right? If it looks good enough for them, it's good. There's no technical criteria. It just says, if you have a Republican and a Democrat, and they both agree that's a match, that's good enough for us. Because neither one can say the other one cheated. You all decided together that was a match. So if no signature, no match, if they say that looks different. My dad had 2 signatures. One of them was incredibly complicated. That's the one he used on my report cards. So if you register one and use the other, it's not going to match. It may be your ballot, right? You also have to, when you return a mail ballot, you have to put now, that was a change in 2021, the last 4 of your social or your driver's license. We recommend you put both on that envelope. And the ballot board has to match that to whatever you put on your registration, whenever you register. And so if those numbers don't match, that's another reason to question, to reject the ballot. Last one, husband and wife, please sign your own envelope. We get a lot of those, we get a few a lot. We get some, husband signed the wife's envelope. And so we see the name, we see the signature, we say household. Yep, that looks like his signature, so we have to wait until the other one comes back. And if it doesn't, that's a problem. So make sure you sign your envelope if you're in a household where many people are voting by mail. Make sure you sign it, make sure you put in your numbers. Those are the main 3 reasons. Now, if your ballot says rejected, in 21, the legislation made a change that allows you to what's called cure the defect. So we will send you, the ballot board will send you a letter saying, hey, we rejected your ballot because your signature doesn't match. You have until 6 days after the election to show up in our office or mail us back the little form we send you and say, I'm correcting this was me. The ballot board checks and says, okay, good, we'll add it to the count now. So it's not a final decision for all of the reasons for rejection. Another reason for rejection, remember you could have asked for an annual application, right? So let's say that you had an annual, we started mailing ballots on September 20th. And let's say that on September 23rd, you registered in Tarrant County. That ballot was already in the mail, but it's canceled. So, you don't remember, whatever it is, you fill out the ballot, you're confused, you think and you mail it back, it's going to be rejected because it was canceled. You moved to another county. So there are a couple of very specific scenarios. But most of them, if they're a user, let's say a voter originated, if it's something that a voter did quote unquote wrong, the voter can come in and fix it, the signature, the numbers, or the lack of signature.
The mail-in ballot stuff works. I've never had to deal with a person in the service, got one of their mail-in ballots, and they voted. And they wanted to know why my name wasn't on it. hell, I ain't in the district, but that made me feel good. And she called back and said, so-and-so was on there, but your name wasn't on there. I said, but you didn't live in my district. The rest of your family does. But anyway, it works. And as you said, I don't know how many, I think you mailed out at least 30,000. I don't know how many ballots they mailed out, but they're mailing out those ballots. And then soon they get them. I mean, this person has already voted. You know, they happen to be in the service, but they've already voted. They've already pushed it back in. Voted, get it back in.
Speaking of returning, that's another question that we get a lot. You have to mail your ballot by mail, you have to mail it back. If you want to return it in person, you can only do that on election day. And you can only return your own ballot, and you have to show us ID when you drop it off. So on election day is the only day where there'll be like a little drive-through in our office. Show up with your car, you're gonna give us a ballot, we're gonna say, can I see your ID? Yep, that is your ballot, here you go. So don't bring yours and your spouse's, because we'll tell you we can't take that one. And if you say, I'm already here, I'm just leaving it here, we're gonna say, improperly delivered, because that was not yours, and it's not going to count. But if you're worried about the postal service, it's gonna get lost, it's the law. It's not gonna count, you wanna hand deliver it, perfect. Election day, bring it in, we'll receive it, we'll put it in there, and then it'll get counted that night. Payroll. We didn't talk about payroll. Payroll was a big discussion earlier in the year, okay? I think at this point, we worked out a lot of the issues that we've had. It was a new system, it was a new process, it was just, we had to jump on it as a department last year when we had all these issues with the Oracle. I think we're in a good spot now, right? Those of you who've been to training, you've seen that we've given you this paper form for you to fill out some information that we were taking over the phone or we just asking to type in. We have proper documentation now, make sure we don't make mistakes entering data, make sure that we have one form for each one of you so we know when we're going to process payroll that you're in the system. We've done a lot of checks and balances when we bring you into work so that we can have this in the system. That was most of the problem that we had. When I say most of the problem, I want to be careful when I say this because we did get 97% of the payroll done the day we said. But for that 2% of people, I understand. It's not fair that you don't get paid the day we said. So we really worked on capturing that data, making sure that we are in a better position to pay you. Early voting, November 15. You should all get this. When you go to training, you get a little flyer that has those dates. So if I'm wrong, please look at your flyer. November 15, that's 2 weeks after early voting ends. Election day is November 27, I think. It's right before Thanksgiving. That money should be in your account if you get direct deposit. If you opt for a check, that's the day the check is going to hit the mail, so you're going to get it after Thanksgiving. My advice, go for direct deposit if you can, or get the debit card so you can just run that card that same day as soon as your funds are there. But that's the main approach that we do on payroll. We just got to get that data cleaned up. Now, I need to ask a favor from you if you're a poll worker. If you worked the last 2 elections, you notice that we did, after the election, send you an email saying, hey, here's what we're paying for your polling place. John, Jane, Johnny, Jill, how many hours they each worked. Okay? That helps us confirm so that we have less cases of, okay, we paid someone 12 hours and then they call us and say, I actually did 13 and a half. Well, that's not what the poll book said. That's not what the paperwork said. And we will fix it, but we have to go through a process of talking to the judge and getting something to back it up, et cetera, et cetera. So that confirmation we're going to send you with that list of names and hours worked, please take a good look at it and send it back to us. That means, look, this is what we found in the records. Absent anything, that's what's going to hit payroll and pay you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, and thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have one question. Has there been changes to the portal?
To the what? To the portal.
The portal?
Changes to the portal, what portal? Probably. What specifically are we looking for?
It keeps having errors.
I tell you what, why don't we, I really don't know that I have much to help you here, but why don't I keep your number and call you tomorrow and just kind of go over it over the phone with our team and make sure that we. Oh, you're all set, okay. Should be.
Again, thank all of you. Food is here, 9 of these. Thank you for those guys. Please get the food. To all my elected officials, Core, thank you for being here tonight. And all elected officials, just stand up. Just the elected officials, can I get all the elected officials just to stand up now? And say thank you. Again, can't say enough about and security is not going to be an issue, okay? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again to my staff for all they've done, my chief of staff and all. Thank you.